it was very obvious to me that the green and the blues I could see in the rocky terrain around me had, over the space of 34 years, had this dance. And that dance had created this being that you all associate the word or label John with. Hey guys, I just want to make a little... I had an event the other day and it made me question the structure of the world and reality, and how somehow sometimes I feel, certainly in the more developed places that we walk and live in life, towns, cities, internet, social media, there seems to be sometimes a very urgent need for an antidote to the separation it creates. And I think most people know that, and that antidote for many is meditation and understanding the connectivity of everything. And thus you approach everything with empathy. You wouldn't harm another human being or another child because you empathize if it were your own child or your own sister, wife, mother, etc., or vice versa. You empathize, you have love within you. And I think that comes from understanding that separation is a bit of an illusion. And of course we can be a raging ego when we don't realize that. And you can get lost in your ego. You can think you're something you're not, and it's just a brain babbling on a power trip. And this is the element of Satanism. That's where Satan expresses himself, in that style, in that aspect of the ego. But for me, I see there's a need for an antidote in those places. But the other day, my friend took me out in the car with a mattress in the back. He did so because I'm leaving for Germany soon for my treatment, as you know. And when he took me out, we sat at the shore of Lake Wanyama. And on the shore of Lake Wanyama were endless storks, pelicans, flamingo, millions of flamingo as far as the eye could see. And it was just this amazing dance of nature. And as everything was so busy and moving, I sat to watch it. And from nowhere, I got dragged without any necessity for any meditation, just by walking, or sitting in this instance, in the natural wonder of the world, the way the world was created and designed. You start to connect simply by seeing the wonder of it, the magnificence of it. And as I sat there, I could see this lake of blue and these lakes of green of the grass and the lush vegetation, and the Rift Valley at my back, which is just a huge phenomenal sight in itself. And I can see all of this, what we would call the canvas for the expression of sentient life. And that's how a lot of us perceive this, is you have this nature around us, this green, that allows for the expression of sentient life. But the reality of it is that those oceans of green and blue that we see all around us, that we deem to be nature, it became immediately apparent to me, sitting there, without need for any still meditation, because I was so overwhelmed by the sheer wonder of the world in front of me. It was very obvious to me that the green and the blues I could see in the rocky terrain around me had, over the space of 34 years, had this dance. And that dance had created this being that you all associate the word or label John with. And I realized that I was simply overwhelmed at the point I was myself looking back upon my parent, the thing that gave way for me. Now, of course, I have biological parents, but they are also an expression of that as well. And to see it and to realize very quickly these greens and blues that allow these birds to fly and allow these magnificent sights, also gave way over 34 years to form me and allow me to look back upon it and to attach to it emotion, adjective, description, and meaning and gratitude toward God. Now, I don't know the state of being of other sentient life because I'm not one. I don't know if they fly with gratitude. I don't know that. But maybe we are the ones who project the gratitude, for our eyes take light and give form. So, you are a creative force in that sense. As light hits things, it comes into you and it takes form within you. And even Jesus Christ leaned towards explaining this and expressing this in between the lines of his parables. And to realize that walking in just the natural wonder of things pulled on its own me into a space where I could see the oneness of it and the connectivity gave me a loving, nurturing respect. Now, I'm not going to remain and say we are all one and so on and so forth, because we didn't sign up for that. We came in as individual beings. But to see that the greens and the blues of the world are you, that they danced for X amount of years to form the life form that is you, is so important, because then we protect it, we love it, we nurture it, we understand it, we're an extension of it and it an extension of us perhaps, or we are the sentient conscious aspect of it, of this expression collectively of life. And I found that so phenomenal that I could be pulled just off the sheer wonder of the world into that. And we lack that wonder back in the developed places, towns and cities. Not many people take wonder from what we do. The sharp edges, sharp corners, grey buildings. It's not very wonderful. It's not as aesthetically pleasing, and it's certainly nowhere near as spiritually significant and overwhelming as getting out into nature. Later in the day as well, I photographed a bird called the bee-eater. I don't know much about it. I didn't know much about this bird, but I'm the sort of guy, I have to know about stuff that I see. I want to know stuff about it. And I realized upon reading the science as well that I was again off the back of simply pursuing the knowledge of this animal by reading books that other human beings who have sat and observed in the present moment this being for a length of time had observed and written down. The bee-eater lives, I discovered, with 4 generations. So it would be like me, Aslan, my parents and grandparents, all living together in the same house. Something that happens, but it's rare these days. And again, I felt a connectivity to this little bird, because I said, wow, you're really not so different. And again, there were 2 things without any meditation whatsoever that brought me into a still, thoughtless state, present-minded, and understanding the fundamental workings of sentient life are not so different. Family, love, reproduction, food. And as far as we know, we are the one that then go to the degree of worship, or sending gratitude to God, or understanding that there was a source of creation, the zero, not zero as the yogis call it. We're the only species we know that do that. I have suspicions that other species do that, and I've got an escaped puppy here. I have one puppy I've called my own, called Bear, because he keeps escaping and coming to me, so he's become my puppy. And this is little Bear, John Nicky's baby. So we can look at, train of thought got busted there. We can look at the natural world and be connected, and not need that thoughtless practice to find that thoughtless state. But also, even in reading and studying and ascertaining knowledge about these little sentient beings, then we also, in my experience, can have our consciousness just click with a fragment of information and feel a bond to something that many people might feel a bond to sentient life, but to hear that a little bird lives in a community and stays with all of its family and recognizes its siblings and its neighbors as bee-eaters do as well. You see the expression of this energy within inside humans that make us do that is no different to the life force expressing in the bee-eater. For God created us all. God created existence. That's why it's hard to find God inside existence. The baker's not in his cake after all, but at least evidence of the baker is. And I think the evidence is in that experience I had sitting at that lake, and also in the experience that another human being had sitting in the present moment, still enough, observing this little beautiful sentient life form, this bird, the bee eater, and learning all about it. That also created a connection for me. And I just think it's very interesting that away from the bustle of doing stuff you don't want to do, earning money that you don't particularly need, just to buy stuff you don't particularly want because you've been told you want it, etc., is so corrosive to the natural nature of us humans that we need an antidote. And in actual fact, what I learned from seeing the tribes is it's kind of like meditation for us is a practice we must pursue. But I can tell you now, the Maasai have no electricity, etc. And they sit outside still on their own for hours, and they just call it talking to God. You know, and I just can't help but wonder, this whole focus in Europe and America and Australia and China as well on the need for meditation. Is it just an antidote to a broken way of life, quite simply? And if we were perhaps to re-engineer society somehow, to reincorporate nature, to make Mother Nature part of it, to make Mother Nature part of the raising of our children, to make sure that connection is always there, that we never make societal choices at the detriment of Mother Nature. I wonder if we'd even need that antidote as much as at all. Because Mother Nature seems to have an ability, when observed, to create the wonder and the thoughtless state and the sense of connectivity to the world around us anywhere. It just seems that because we've developed societies that are so disconnected from it, many people need to find a way to reconnect. That was all. God bless, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, as it really helps us to grow the channel and with it help more children here in Tanzania. Also, don't forget you can support our work by sharing with children in crisis here, be it sharing for a particular need or even sharing one-on-one support for education, housing, food and medical care. It can be done for as little as the cost of a cup of coffee a week back in the West after all. Just visit www.sharetanzania.co.uk to find out more. Lastly, remember you can also support us via Patreon, www.patreon.com/featherstail, and help keep us here in Tanzania to continue our work. The links for the website and for the Patreon are in the description box of this video. Love and light, guys. See you soon.